CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, in a single line, the U.S. civilian agency for collecting and analyzing foreign intelligence, and when authorized, conducting covert action, in other words, understanding the world out there and giving the president options. Day to day, the CIA does three things with discipline: collect, human, meaning information from people; analyze, turning data into clear judgments; and share with decision makers. The focus is outside of U.S. territory, working with and through partners. How does this look in practice? Small teams and embassies, local contacts, protected sources, and analysts who cross-reference reports with imagery and open-source news. Covert operations only happen with formal authorization and a defined political objective. The human element, the value is in trust, recruiting, protecting, and never exposing those who help. When it works, no one talks about it. The CIA exists to reduce surprise. NSA, the National Security Agency, in plain terms, the U.S. Signals and Data Agency, listening to, protecting, and deciphering communications to defend the nation. Its primary mission, SIGINT, signals intelligence, and cybersecurity to keep secrets in and threats out. Day to day, the NSA does three things: collect signals from radio, satellites, and networks, break codes when authorized, and protect the government's own networks. Think of engineers, cryptographers, and analysts turning noise into useful leads for decision makers. Where does this come into play? Detecting hostile planning and communications, mapping digital infrastructures, and alerting partners to security vulnerabilities. The other half of its mission is defensive, protecting federal systems against intrusion and hardening encryption. The human element, legality and filters, are critical. Collection is governed by rules and authorizations. Analysts document chains of custody and the limits of what can be viewed and shared. The goal isn't to know everything. It's to know what matters at the right time. The NSA transforms invisible signals into clear warnings. FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, in a single sentence, the U.S. federal law enforcement agency with one foot in criminal investigation and the other in domestic intelligence. The intelligence branch is the component that organizes collection, analysis, and sharing to prevent threats, terrorism, espionage, and cyber attacks. Day to day, it works like this. Agents and analysts work together. Agents collect facts lawfully through interviews, court orders, and authorized surveillance. Analysts turn this information into a clear picture: who's who, what poses a risk, and what needs to become an alert for local authorities. Where does this happen? In Joint Terrorism Task Forces, JTTFs, which are mixed teams of local and federal police sharing information in real time. It also occurs in cyber investigations and counterintelligence cases, protecting secrets from foreign espionage. The human element, rules and oversight. To investigate within the country, the FBI requires predication, a valid reason, authorizations, and limits on data use. The goal isn't to see everything, it's to act early without crossing legal lines. The FBI connects intelligence and the legal process to turn leads into prevention. DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency. In plain terms, the Department of Defense's intelligence agency that tells military commanders what foreign forces can do today, tomorrow, and in wartime. Its mission? To collect and analyze foreign military intelligence and provide advance warning to decision makers. The DIA does three things: map capabilities, troops, missiles, radar systems, assess intent through exercises and mobilizations, and inform military planning. It uses human sources from the Defense Clandestine Service, HUMANT, info from people, imagery, signals, and open source data, but the focus is always military. Where does this come into play? In analyses for military commands around the world, in briefings for the Pentagon, and in reports that estimate order of battle and regional risks. Additionally, defense attachés and embassies help read the local environment. The human element, the DIA is not a law enforcement agency and does not prosecute crimes. Its value lies in translating confusing signals into practical options, moving ships, adjusting exercises, and reinforcing allies. Less drama, more foresight. The DIA exists to prevent surprises on the battlefield. NGA, the National Geospatial-Intelligence Agency. In plain terms, the agency that turns imagery and maps into actionable intelligence. Its mission? To see where something is, how it's changing, and what that means for both military and civilian decisions. The NGA combines data from satellites, aircraft, sensors, and public sources to create living maps. The analysts compare imagery over time. The result is layered data that guides everything from military planning to disaster response. Where does this come into play? In safe routes for teams, terrain models for helicopters, updated nautical charts, and briefings that show how a location changes from one month to the next. In practice, these are maps with an opinion, not just showing where something is, but why it matters. The precision comes from people plus process. A single labeling error on a map can shift an entire operation. That's why there are quality controls and a common glossary with partners. So that red signifies the same level of urgency for everyone. The NGA puts context on the ground, and the ground decides a lot. NRO, the National Reconnaissance Office. In plain terms, the office that designs, builds, and operates the United States reconnaissance satellites. Its mission? To put eyes and ears in space so that other agencies like the NGA and NSA can see and better understand the world. The NRO does three things: architect satellite constellations, launch them with partners, and operate the satellites that collect imagery and signals. Think heavy engineering and operational silence. The result is a stream of data that becomes maps, warnings, and leads in the hands of decision makers. Where does this come into play? When a crisis begins, orbits are adjusted, overhead pass windows are utilized, and collection is prioritized over key areas. This data feeds the NGA with imagery and terrain data, and the NSA with signals, as well as other defense partners, reducing the time between collection and delivery. Every minute saved between the satellite and the analyst increases the chance of a correct decision. That's why the NRO relies on automation, secure links, and redundancy. The NRO puts the right satellite in the right place at the right time. DHS-INA, the Department of Homeland Security, Office of Intelligence and Analysis. In plain terms, the component of DHS that collects, analyzes, and shares intelligence to protect the homeland, airports, borders, infrastructure, and major events. Its mission? To get actionable intelligence to those on the ground, states, cities, and private sector partners. The flow is simple: collect from partners, federal, state, and local. Analyze trends and share via bulletins and calls with fusion centers, information hubs that connect police, fire departments, and the private sector. Where does this come into play? In protecting critical infrastructure, power, water, hospitals, issuing warnings about emerging threats, supporting mass gathering events, and coordinating with TSA, CBP, and local emergency services. The goal is prevention and preparedness, training, hardening targets, and adjusting plans. The human element: INA is not a law enforcement agency. The FBI is the one that investigates and indicts. Here the focus is on useful information while respecting privacy and civil liberties, what to collect, what to minimize, and what can be shared. The INA is the bridge that turns scattered signals into local alerts. DEA Intelligence, the Drug Enforcement Administration Intelligence Program, the part of the DEA that transforms clues about drugs and money into maps of criminal networks. Its mission? To support investigations and operations against cartels, trafficking routes, and money laundering, both inside and outside the U.S. The flow is: collect from seizures, interviews, and authorized financial data, analyze patterns, who sends, who receives, how the money moves back, and share with field teams and international partners. Think of people, routes, and accounts all coming into the same picture. Where does this come into play? In transnational organized crime cases, at clandestine labs, and in ports and airports. Analysts cross-reference phone numbers, shipments, and transactions to find the leaders and financiers, not just the couriers. Following the money avoids just trimming the branches. Freezing assets, tracking straw owners, and identifying front companies is a game changer. And it's all done with clear legal rules: what can be viewed, with what authorization, and how to protect sources. The DEA intelligence targets the entire network, people, routes, and money, to take down the structure, not just the daily operation. Treasury OIA, the Department of the Treasury's Office of Intelligence and Analysis, the intelligence component that reads international finance to identify security risks involving banks, transactions, and state and private actors. FinCEN, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, the hub that collects and analyzes financial reports, like SARS or suspicious activity reports, to support investigations and public policy. The OIA produces financial intelligence: who is funding whom, which networks are moving money, and where sanctions could be tightened. FinCEN connects banks and the government. It receives regulatory data, identifies laundering patterns, and shares alerts with law enforcement and other partners. Where does this come into play? In cutting off the flow of money to terrorists, proliferators, or cartels, guiding sanctions and counter-laundering efforts, and identifying new typologies: layering, straw owners, illicit use of crypto. This is compliance turned into intelligence. Analysts turn cold forms into hot leads, without exposing innocent customers and by following strict privacy rules. The OIA and FinCEN show that following the money closes doors before crime can open windows. State, INR, the State Department's Bureau of Intelligence and Research, the smallest and perhaps most influential agency in the intelligence community, which produces short, direct analysis for the Secretary of State and diplomats. Its mission? To inform foreign policy with an independent perspective, free from operational noise. The INR does one thing well: all source analysis. They take reports from all the other IC agencies, add what comes from embassies, and distill it all into one-page briefings. The focus isn't new collection, it's sharp, concise judgment on what's already known. Where does this come into play? On the Secretary of State's desk every morning, in analyses that prepare diplomats for negotiations, and in long-term assessments that guide foreign policy. Their product is valued for its brevity and clarity. The human element, independence, and dissent are valued. INR can, and is expected to, present alternative views if the data suggests them, in order to avoid groupthink. This ensures decision-makers see the full picture, not just the consensus view. From the CIA's HUMINT to the NGA's GEOINT, the IC agencies are pieces of a puzzle. INR helps assemble the final picture. Intelligence isn't about predicting the future. It's about understanding the present to make better decisions.